While following up on a rumor that I heard about 3 years ago of possible concentration camps in America, I came across the following story. As bizarre and scary as it is, it could easily be written off as being too unbelievable, but what kept me interested was the ungodly cost of the airport, the firing of the contractors, the weird murals painted on the walls, a picture does say 1,000 words, and the credible witness, Phil Snyder, who mysteriously died after blowing the whistle on underground bases, who visited the airport and left behind documented evidence. The story talks a lot about the Masonic influences and other secret societies that I never knew existed, in which is why people should hear it and consider it as a warning. My special guest tonight is Alex Christopher, author of Pandora's Box, an exposé of the British instigation through Washington, D.C. over the last 200 years. You thought you were free? This stuff has been going on forever. The idea was to make us perceive we were free and independent, but actually we are still subject to the British Commonwealth. She has a lot of information here, and we are going to have her back again for more. I talked to her last night. Just a fascinating individual. She is going to talk about the Montauk Project and extraterrestrial influences, and more. Last night we talked about a few things. We talked about the Denver airport and what is really going on there, and we talked a bit about the Montauk Project, and Al Balik, and then we skipped around a bit about some of the things in Pandora's box. You mentioned that the Queen of England has been buying up a lot of property in Colorado under an alias. Why don't we start on the subject of the British?
All right. The information, primarily, that is in Pandora's box, covers how the major corporations, railroad and banking concerns in this country were set up through a trust that was originally known as the Virginia Company, and there was a survivor to the massacre of the royalty in France during the French Revolution, Marie Antoinette, and Kinley's son, the Dauphin, who survived and was smuggled out of France. The Dauphin went to the United States, via England, where he signed a contract with the Virginia Company. He came here to help the businesses, especially banking, in the United States. The deal was that everything would remain under English control or subservient to it, and that brings us right up to today, because we are still looking at everything falling under that trust system going back to the Crown of England. It is mind-boggling to think that everyone in this country has been led to believe that the people in the United States had won independence from England, when in fact, they never did.
Well, look at President Bush, wherein 2 years ago he went to England and was knighted by the Queen. Where is that coming from? Is it that he was a faithful servant?
You bet. All of them are doing the bidding, and it goes back to their secret societies, and the establishment of the New World Order, which all leads back to the House of Windsor. There has been in this country, for a long time, a grooming process, whereby people carry on the bidding of the Crown of England. That is one of the things the system involving the Rhodes Scholars was set up to achieve. Cecil Rhodes set it up to groom people for this task, to carry the United States into the New World Order. It appears, from what I have been able to find out, that the Crown of England has had this very skillfully planned for hundreds of years, and it could be possible that they have been privy to information that not many of us have, about the chaos involving earth changes that is coming. It is my understanding that England is not going to make it through the changes, so they set up a whole new empire over here. That goes back to some of the things we discussed before, about lands being bought up in Colorado.
Yes, the area is of a pretty high altitude, where it will be safe.
Yes. Plus, all the symbolism that is apparent in the layout of the new Denver airport, says that it is a control center for world control. There is a lot of secret society symbology at the airport. We started researching all of this to find out what it all means. It's all very scary. A gentleman by the name of Al Balik, who has been involved in some very unusual government projects in the past, told me that the Denver area is where the establishment of the western sector of the New World Order will be in the United States. Little bits and pieces keep coming to me, confirming things I have not had confirmed.
Do you know of John Coleman?
The Committee of 300.
Yes. What's your take on that?
I think his information is fantastic. If he had the information that I put in Pandora's box when I put that together, it would have blown his mind. But, as far as I know from my standpoint, both sets of material go hand in hand, right down the line.
Some of these things about the background of the British invasion, taking over the land over here, while they let us think that we are running this country. How they had a bone to pick with the Tsar of Russia, years ago, how they have pushed the socialist revolution. Like they say, the sun never sets on British soil. About some of these things, on the airport in Denver. Would you mind discussing some of those things again?
Well, the first thing that got my attention at the airport was the capstone that I saw in a photograph that had a Masonic symbol on it. So, I really wanted to go to the airport and see that, because I thought it was very unusual.
The capstone?
The capstone, or the dedication stone, for the Denver airport, has a Masonic symbol on it. A whole group of us went out to the airport to see some friends off and see this capstone, which also has a time capsule embedded inside it. It sits at the southeastern side of the terminal, which, by the way, is called the Great Hall, which is what Masons refer to as their meeting hall. And, on this thing it mentions the New World Airport Commission. I have never heard of that, have you?
Never.
It has a Masonic symbol on it, and it also has very unusual geometric designs. It depicts an arm, rising up out of it, that curves at a 45-degree angle. It also has a thing that looks like a keypad on it. This capstone structure is made of carved granite and stainless steel, and it is very fancy. This little keypad area at the end of the arm has an out-of-place, unfinished wooden block sitting on it. A gentleman that was with me on the first trip out of the airport has since died. They say he committed suicide, but everything else tells me that this is not possible. No one can double-tie a catheter behind his own neck and strangle himself. I just don't think that is possible. But his name was Phil Schneider, and he started blowing the whistle on all this stuff going on in the underground bases that he had helped build for years and years. He worked on the underground bases at Area 51 and Dulce, New Mexico, as well as several other places. Schneider told me that this keypad-looking area looked like a form of techno-geometry that is alien-oriented, and that it had something to do with a directional system, whatever that meant, that functioned as a homing beacon to bring ships right into the Great Hall. In the same general area, on this capstone, there are some most unusual designs on the floor that are all Masonic in nature, which lead right back to the Black Sun, which goes back to Nazi symbology. See, the secret societies are supposedly into sun worship. The Nazis were into black sun worship, which connects with the idea of Saturn. Saturn and Satanism kind of go hand in hand. Then, we have this system of murals at the airport that are the most grotesque things you've ever seen.
What's on the murals?
I say that they are about what they plan to do to us, and the world as a whole. Not what has happened, or some fantasy. One of them, that is very unusual, has 3 caskets, with dead people in them.
That's part of the ritual, connected with the Skull and Bones Club.
Yes. There are evidently 3 groups of people that they would like to see dead. The first casket has what the artist told me was a Jewish American child, a little girl, and she has the star on her clothes, and a little Bible, and a locket.
Jewish lineage is passed through the female.
Yes, well, all these caskets depict women who are dead. Then, in the center casket, there is depicted a Native American woman, and the last casket has a black woman in it. Now, normally I would not have thought too much about these murals if I had not done a lot of research. Even in the government documents, I have run across gene splicing discussions on how they would like to splice out specific races, and also, whoever these people are, do not like the Jewish people. This is just one of the huge murals. This same mural depicts the destruction of a city and a forest, and there is a little girl holding a Mayan tablet that speaks of the destruction of civilization. There is a mural that depicts this thing, standing over a city, that looks like a green Darth Vader, with a sword, that has destroyed the city. This character is huge, and there is a road depicted, with women, walking, holding dead babies. This same mural extends over to another one, which depicts all of the children of the world, taking the weapons from each country on earth, and giving them to a central figure, which is a German boy, who has this iron fist and anvil in his hand, that is totally out of proportion to the child's body, fitting the swords into plowshares. I thought, well, this is very odd, depicting a German child doing this. What all of this symbology in the airport mural seems to convey, is that not only do we have a secret society behind this, but that it is a German secret society, working in the vicinity of the New World Control Center.
It is interesting, when you consider Operation Paperclip, wherein all these Nazis were brought to the United States to be groomed, financed, and basically brought back into power.
Well, I know they are here, because I have seen them, alongside the Americans, in the more sensitive areas of the airport. But these paintings are most disturbing, and very unusual. When I first tried to contact the artist, and talk to him about these murals, he told me that he was given guidelines on what to paint, and put in them. When I showed up in his studio, I asked to see the guidelines for the last two he was working on. He suddenly went brain dead and said, of course, there are no guidelines. It took myself and two other people, over 8 months, to figure out all the symbology that is embodied in these murals. It turned out that some of these are trigger pictures, containing symbology, designed to trigger altered personalities of people that have been groomed in MK Ultra type programs for specific tasks that they have been trained to do in terms of something connected with satanic rituals and mind control. I had one woman that called me out of the blue one night, and she was really disturbed about some information. She told me many different things that later turned out to be known MK Ultra triggers. Also, almost every aspect of these murals contains symbols relating back to secret societies. When you get the overall view of what they are talking about in these things, it is very, very scary. It goes back to the Biodiversity Treaty, getting rid of specific races of people, taking over the world, and mind control. There is one picture, in which every plant turns out to be mind-altering, or poisonous, and all the animals are Masonic symbols, used in literature in every country in the world. It took a very long time to track all this stuff down, and figure out what they are trying to say. The one way they tell stories, is in pictures. It's right there, in our face, when you go into the airport. Most people look at them and say, boy, those are crazy looking pictures, what are they doing in this airport?
Some interesting facts about Denver International Airport. The airport was built in 1995, on 34,000 acres, 53 square miles, in spite of the fact that Denver already had what everyone said was a perfectly fine airport, Stapleton, which was ordered closed when Denver International was built, so there wouldn't be any competition. In fact, the new airport has less gates and less runways than Stapleton did. All it does have is a lot more